All right, welcome in. The floor is yours. An extension of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Alex Toledo and his first go around as a producer here on the YouTube channel, and did a great job there. We've got Alex right above me. He's now at 5,000 followers. He has joined the club. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. We've got Brian NY. Forget the NY. He's right next to him. And then, of course, he's with the Bahama Rican Boys. They have a new episode out today. And Greg Sylvander, you can follow him at, of course, Greg Sylvander, because he uses his real name. Let's get to what we're going to talk about tonight. But before we do, we want to
uncover the verdict here. My bad.
Particular episode. Sponsors first. Everything Trade Shows. EverythingTradeShows.com. Official sponsor of the Five Reasons Sports Network, and of course of Five on the Floor. This is where you want to go. If you're going back to trade shows, we know COVID hasn't passed, but people are still going to the convention centers. You need to get your business back out in front of people. They will do the whole damn thing for you from the beginning to the end. They'll show you exactly how it's going to look. You mentioned Five Reasons. You get a free booth rendering. Look at some of the companies that they have worked with. Microsoft, Citrus, etc. They're based right here in Fort Lauderdale off of Las Olas, but they service all 50 states. So go to everythingtradeshows.com. That's our friend Chris, who comes to our watch parties as well. Again, support our local companies. So if you heard for your boss, we're going to be going to a trade show, mention Five Reasons, mention Everything Trade Shows, and get that thing done. Again, it's everythingtradeshows.com. We're also sponsored by Prize Picks. For that, use the code 5, F-I-V-E. And yes, you can play on days that the Heat don't play. I notice everybody only signs up for it on the days that the Heat play. But, of course, you can play NFL, NHL, and everything else. Use the code 5 and get your initial deposit matched. All right, the topic today. I was not late today. I was on time today. Well, don't do that to me. Come on, I just came from a Tyler Herro event. And speaking of that.
You sound defensive.
I mean, yeah. A little I was trying to come up with some other thing to say. But
you're going to say a Herro joke about defense? Or
yes, and then I realized I just saw him and he was very nice to my daughter, so I wasn't going to do that. Anyway, we are giving away a Tyler Herro signed photo today, and I can guarantee it because I just saw him signing these. He was down at Hollywood Collectibles, which is a new partner of ours down in Dania Beach. Not too far again from Fort Lauderdale. And Tyler was there, and he was signing all kinds of stuff for all kinds of different people. Our guy, Tony Schwartz, was there as well. And we do have 2 signed photos to give away. We're going to give away one today, and we're going to give away one on Post Up 5R on Saturday. Greg is going to read you a question a little bit later. We're going to do this at the 20-minute mark today, okay? So, well, it's 8:20, okay, if you're watching this live, because you're going to have to be. So that's what we're going to do. 8:20, we're going to read you. He's going to give you a trivia question, and you're going to have to be the first one to mention it here in the comments. You got to get the right answer in the comments. If nobody gets it right, then it will extend to the Five Reasons Twitter handle, to DMing me at Five Reasons. But hopefully somebody will get it here. All right, here's the topic tonight, okay? Again, we're staying positive because we were positive a couple nights ago, and then look what happened, okay? The Heat stunned the Bucks at home without Bam and without Jimmy, and with Tyler having an off game, and with Duncan not playing the whole fourth quarter. We're going to talk about upsides tonight, okay? For some of the guys kind of towards the back end of the Heat roster, like what can these guys be? So we're going to go around the horn, and we're going to go with the man of the moment, which is Caleb Martin, okay? Caleb sort of busted out of nowhere here. He was known as the lesser of the two twins. We talk about how the Heat always seem to have the lesser of the two twins, Markieff Morris, the lesser of the two twins, etc., or the two brothers. And he was tremendous. 28 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. As I said, that's a Jimmy Butler stat line. Also 2 vicious dunks that were getting played all over the place. So I will start here, and we'll go to Alex first. What is his upside? Like, what is the best possible version of Caleb Martin that he could become? Who is the player? What is the value, etc.?
Well, I think right now he's shown that he can not only play in spurts, he can be a decent rotation player for you. Obviously, he's a plug-and-play starter right now while Jimmy's out. And I thought that was an interesting move, getting Tyler back to the bench. Even though you're missing Jimmy and Bam, you would think, you know, how they had it before, Tyler's going to step up and take that starting role. We obviously know that he's good enough to be in that starting role, right? But Caleb gives you a little bit more of that rim attacking mentality where that's on offense at least, right? And he's going to give you really good defense. And I just think That's the one thing we've seen him do just really well from start to finish this season as a two-way guy, is that he's going to give you high level defense. He has active hands. He's able to guard, I think, 1 through 3 pretty confidently, other than maybe just guys that are a lot bigger than him, right? But on offense now, I think the three is still inconsistent. It's still at around 31% from three this season. So it's not like he's killing it from there, but he's obviously, a little streaky from there. Like we saw last night, he's had a couple of games where he gets a little bit hot from three. I would say he's kind of like a better version of Derrick Jones Jr., right? And I think that's been said before, but I just think like kind of the role that they play, right? Where it's like he's going to give you energy, he's going to give you good defense, except he can do more with the ball in his hands than Derrick could, right? Like I think he's a little bit of a better shooter, a little bit of a better defender. Maybe not as tall, but he can attack. And so I just think he's got all of that in the bag. If he just becomes a more consistent 3-point shooter, he becomes a much more valuable role player for you, other than a guy who is probably going to be still towards the end of the bench when everybody's healthy, right? He's probably going to be 10th man, 9th man. I don't know, because he's really playing so well that I don't know where to put him when they're healthy. But I don't think he's that far away from just becoming a really like a high, like a valuable role player.
Greg, we
a little time.
Greg, we've made the Magruder comparison. He's much more athletic than Magruder.
Yeah, no, I'm going higher.
He doesn't have the athleticism that Derrick Jones Jr. does, because maybe nobody does, but it does feel like he's a blend of those guys in some ways, and maybe others. But do you have another player comp, maybe somebody who's not on the Heat?
Player comp, not so much. But when I think about impact, when we talk about him and potential and what he can be, I think his best years in the league, he can be like what James Posey was to the 06 team, or what Shane Battier was to some of those big three teams. And I don't mean the exact role, but I mean the impact to the team. And it may just be that he's getting it from different places on the court, etc. It's different ball games, but I think that he can be, essentially your best wing player off the bench in his best season. That's the best case scenario for him, as I see it.
Brian, take us away from the Heat a little bit. Give me a comp from elsewhere.
I'm trying to think of one, but it's difficult because he has sort of a weird game. One, I like that he plays pissed off. He plays like he's mad that he's even on a two-way contract, and he feels like he should be on a better deal as it is. And I'm trying to think of some other playoff teams, but like when I'm looking at these guys, right, and you're looking at some of these back end rotation guys, you're trying to picture them in a playoff series, and I could see him in a playoff setting, 15 minutes, make a couple big plays, maybe hit a big shot. He's not somebody who's always been a great shooter, but he did have a couple really good shooting years in college. One of them, he was 40% from three. He was just kind of very streaky, but he was actually known as a scorer coming out, though he didn't get drafted. He was known as a scorer coming out when he first entered the league, and his defense was a question mark. Now, it's kind of flipped where you don't really see him as an offensive guy in that way. That's why the 3-point shooting was so shocking, because he hadn't had a game where he made more than 2 3-pointers this year, and he shattered that with 6. So it shows you that, one, probably he's working on that shot, I would imagine. He has to if he's here, right? But two, he has the confidence enough to take it. He's not somebody who's going to necessarily shy away from that. Probably like, somebody in Philadelphia that we all know. And he's somebody who, he plays, he plays very upset, and he wants to be out there and make plays on the defensive end. What told me a lot, too, was the dunk at the end of the game. And because, a lot of guys, they would have just dribbled out and just try to get fouled. He wanted to make a statement. He clearly wanted to make a statement. He felt like last night was his game, and he did that, and he got a poster out of it, and it was a very cool one.
I think this came in on the chat, in our internal chat here, Derek Anderson. He reminds me a little bit more of the other Anderson who played for the Heat briefly. One of the two guys who didn't come back for their rings, Shandon, a little bit. And again, I think we're kind of looking at, these sorts of role players, kind of mid-sized type players, maybe can guard up a little bit. But I do think the thing that gets mentioned, this came in one of the comments, is his first step is not like a role player. Like that is and this comes in from Welsh. I will forgive him for making the comment about being late. That first step is different. Like that's the type of first step that would jump out like at a Chicago Combine or something like that. It's a little weird to me, and I tweeted this last night, that he was available for a two-way. I don't. He has enough raw material there that even if he was inconsistent, some team would have taken a shot on him. I mean, there are much lesser like athletic players that have been given multiple chances, whereas he was just sort of out there for anybody, and it is still strange for me. I don't know that he can be a full-time starter in the NBA. I'm not looking at that. I do think on the Heat he could be Jimmy Butler's full-time backup. I mean, he can do a lot of the things that they ask Jimmy from doing. Oh God, that's a long time ago. He does handle a lot of that stuff, and I think that he could be, a 7th or 8th man in a solid playoff rotation. Let me ask you this: is he better than Alex? Is he better than Bruce Brown?
No.
Okay.
No, Bruce Brown. I mean, that's a nice comparison because Bruce Brown, I think, is a high impact guy right now for a contender. I think Caleb is just starting to show it, and he's obviously been valuable like for these past few games. But I just think we got to see it a little bit more before we start comparing him to guys like that. Like I think maybe he's got a quicker first step than Bruce Brown, but right now, like that guy is he's a high level defender. He's gotten a lot of minutes. He's been doing it for a while, and I think like. He's in one of those categories where like he's been doing it for longer, and I just trust it more. But not that I don't think Caleb can be this guy more often. I mean, look, last night he said it. I asked him about his scoring, if there's more to show, if he can be this guy more consistently, and he talked about how he was more known for his scoring coming into the league, and that he kind of developed the defense stuff later on. And
so was Gabe.
That's his rep.
There's a comment in the chat. I got to call it out. He's kind of Mikal Bridges-esque. That's like the best case scenario if we're really going somewhere. Yeah, that's the one right there.
Right, but look,
jackpot.
Here's the other thing, though. Whenever we do these comps, the guys who become a Mikal Bridges were not a Mikal Bridges before. You understand what I'm saying? Like we always talk about what they are now. We don't think of what they were. Mikal Bridges was basically sent away by Philadelphia in a draft day trade. I'm
trying to think of like a rim attacking role player in that, not that he doesn't take threes, but somebody who was really, like the way.
I mean, Bruce Brown to me is I don't know why that one jumped out to me, but
he takes the floaters though. He likes the floaters and the in between shots. Caleb is going to the rack and he's jumping from far in transition. Like he is. I'm trying to think of somebody like that. I said in their chat like maybe like a worse version of Will Barton, but even though he attacks the rim, but.
Who's the and this shouldn't escape me now, but who was the breakout player with the Clippers last year in the playoffs, the second round?
Terrence Mann.
Yeah.
Do you see any of that?
So something like that actually kind of makes sense, right? Like in terms of the Bruce Brown thing, I actually might trust Caleb's jumper a little bit more, though I'm not necessarily trusting either of their jumpers consistently yet. Caleb, if he keeps going 6 for 8, I'm going to trust him all day. But like that's a different story. But Terrence Mann is an interesting one, though. Last I checked, I'm not sure if he's having like a great season this year or one that they expected. I got to look back at that. But you saw that kind of playoff impact that we were talking about earlier, right? Like he's a guy that came in. They were like, okay, I guess we're going to give Terrence Mann some playoff minutes. And he took advantage of it in a way that kind of looks similar to what Caleb Martin did last night because they have that attitude, right? That go-get-it attitude. Terrence Martin, dunked on Rudy Gobert. I feel like Caleb Martin would try that. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I get the sense that he has that kind of courage to go out there and try to make those big plays. So Terrence Mann, I think, is probably my favorite comp so far that we've laid out.
All right, well, we're going to talk about Max here in a second. But before we do, we have this Tyler Herro signed photo to give away. Greg, throw the question out.
Okay, I'm going to preface it for you guys, and hopefully my mic is clear. Mic check, 1, 2, 12. No, so Tyler Herro scored his 2,000th career point on December 4th. That's Jay-Z's birthday at Milwaukee. He became the second youngest player in franchise history to achieve the feat, getting to that 2,000 career points. He was also the second fastest to get there. So here's the question. Who are the three youngest guys fastest to get to 2,000?
With Tyler being one of them.
With Tyler being one of them. We're giving you one.
Right.
Who are the other two guys that were youngest to 2,000 points with the Miami Heat?
It's got to be solely with the Heat, although typically it would be because if you're that young, you probably haven't been
Correct.
traded at that point. But so you got
tough.
2 other guys. So we're gonna get. So this is gonna go in the comments while we're talking. We're not stopping the show. Whoever is first on here with the 2 other players, and you can't guess twice. Okay, so you got to throw in the 2 other guys, and that's it. That's your entry. Okay, we can see your comments here as they scroll through. All right, let's get to Max Strus. All right. What is the comp, Brian?
I don't want to invoke Mikal Bridges' name again, but
Really?
like if you're thinking of like a similar type of player, like that's what you would want as absolute best case scenario. I'm gonna say this about Strus, like as somebody who's based in Big East country, got to see him up close when he came up here in New York. DePaul typically not really that good, but it's for Big East standards, but liked what I saw. He was one of the best players in the conference when he used to come up here. And he was somebody who, like, people were talking about, could he be sort of Duncan Robinson-ish last year? I remember that being a discussion because, like, you know, they found him on a 2-way after Duncan. He's white. They think he can shoot like Duncan, et cetera, et cetera. He's a different kind of player. He's more well-rounded. I think he has more defensive upside too. He's somebody who has a lot of potential in terms of like just being a well-rounded guy in compared to Duncan, who, you know, is a shooter at this point. So Max Strus, I would think of maybe different from Caleb Martin, though, because he can shoot, but he's more of a well-rounded guy you can have come off the bench. And if you're putting both of them next to each other, I'd probably feel more comfortable starting him at some points, but like, you know, as a spot starter. But he's also a guy that I wouldn't play too much either. Like if he's going to get a spot start, you're looking at 25 minutes or so, maybe 22 minutes, and you're pulling him out for somebody else to be like a super sub, like a Tyler Herro or something like that.
Yeah, Greg makes the point. I am listening to you, Brian, but I'm looking through. Nobody has got it yet. A lot of you are getting one of them right, and one of the guys you guys are all assuming that is not right because you got to think about age here. And some of you are not taking age into consideration. We understand who the best draft pick in Miami Heat history is, but he was also 21 years old when he came to Miami. So he's not one of the other 2. That's all I'll say.
Wait, so can we repeat the?
Yes. So the 3 youngest players to 2,000 points with the Miami Heat. That is the question. And Tyler Herro is one of them because that's the autographed photo we're giving away. Who are the other 2?
Here are the other 2. And you guys keep mentioning, you know who, okay? Mr. My House. He's not one of them. That's all I'll say. I'm just saying because you guys are all throwing it in. So somebody else who hasn't answered, Wade, throw in your options here because Dwayne is not one of them. All right. Let's get to you, Alex. The best case scenario for Strus. This one comes in from Marcus Hunter. That is an interesting one. I've heard that one before. Mike Dunleavy.
You've heard that comparison for Strus?
I mean, do you like that as upside? I mean, Mike Dunleavy was a good player for a long time.
I only got to watch like end of career Mike Dunleavy, where he was like mostly. I mean, he was a good movement shooter, so that's cool. But like I think of Strus as like the stocky guy who can come off a curl and attack the rim too. Like I feel a lot better about him attacking a closeout more than Duncan. Even though I want Duncan to counter when he's getting play top side, but Strus is just more athletic downhill than Duncan is, right? So I don't know if Dunleavy has that. Not that Strus is extremely athletic, but.
Do you think we could try to pick, because we always do this when we start comparing white players, is we always find other white players. Can we just go off the board here and not pick? Well, Landry Shamet, does he count a thicker? I don't know.
Someone mentioned Karan Butler, and I was trying to do the math in my head, but then I looked at his numbers real quick, and I was like, oh yeah, he made 2 All-Star games. Never mind.
Matt Strus, my comp.
You talking about Karan Butler for Max Strus, or Karan Butler is one of the 2 options?
No. About the player comparisons that we're doing.
Oh, okay, the player.
Is there a Karan Butler sort of comparison here? But then I'm like, nah, maybe early Karan Butler, but nah.
Karan to Max? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Thunder Dan.
Trying to find a non-white guy.
He doesn't play good enough defense. I know.
Who do you think, Greg? You got one?
I said Thunder Dan, but that's lazy. I know, and he's not that good on defense. I don't know. I mean, a 3-point shooter who can sometimes go and get a dunk.
physical. Wes Matthews is an interesting early career. Wes Matthews is an interesting.
He was so good on defense. So
before he
like,
became a total 3-and-D guy. I don't know. Maybe if you combine Caleb Martin and Max Strus, you get Wesley Matthews or something like that.
I'm trying. I mean, Max has kind of a weird. I don't know. He's sort of a different type of body type too for that position.
Doug McDermott.
Right? He's a little. No, but he's a little thicker. He's a but he's also athletic. I mean, he has.
Yeah.
He has. I think
that's the part.
I don't know. This is a tough one, but the Dunleavy comparison comes up all the time. But I do think it's somewhat lazy because I think we're looking for
you don't pass as Dunleavy was a really good passer.
Yeah, he was
just incomparable.
And Strus is more athletic also than Dunleavy was.
Yeah,
incomparable role player, Max Strus. I mean, never seen anybody like him in the league. Clearly.
By the way, nobody is getting this right. So people,
it's not who was fastest to 2000. It was who's the youngest to 2000 points with the Miami Heat. Who are the 3 youngest? They were the youngest when they scored.
You guys are gonna go crazy when you figure out.
You're right.
There's like 100. There's like 100 people who've guessed here, and
nobody
has picked, he's obvious. He's obvious. That's all I'm gonna say.
Shout out to
are we allowed to
House.
say that? Are we allowed to say now? Because I really do want to give this thing. Are we allowed to say that they're getting one of them right? A lot of them are getting one of them.
Yeah,
right.
they are getting one of them right. It's the one that we all thought it's Ethan's favorite player of all time.
I want to bring him back. No, he's Alex's favorite player, but I do want to bring him back.
He is not my favorite player of all time at all.
He was fun. Michael Beasley is one of them. Okay, Michael Beasley is one of them. Oh, this is interesting. Darius Jordan comes in. Aaron Aflalo. That's better than Mike Dunleavy.
That's a
very
good. That's
right?
a good one.
That's fun. That could be a good one for Caleb too.
Aaron Aflalo was a physical player, right? Physical player with some athleticism. I feel like people have forgotten Aaron Aflalo.
Yeah,
right?
I used to be jealous of him.
I was watching NBA fights on YouTube last night, and he came up in one of them where he tried to punch. I forget who it was in the face. But Aaron Aflalo's a good one. He used to come off screens back when people actually came off screens and shot mid-range jumpers. He did some of that too. He was good at it.
That's an interesting comp. I think we're going to put this on the Twitter handle tonight too to see if everybody can come up with one, especially now that I've come up with the Bruce Brown one for Caleb Martin and we can go from there. All right, we're still waiting for you guys to get this other guy right. So I'm just going to let this scroll through. I don't. Nadir makes a point here. Aflalo could play ISO also. Probably true. Alfredo comes in here. Devin George is was taller and leaner than Max Strus. Anthony Morrow, who had his moments.
Devin George for Caleb Martin though is an interesting.
That's more
interesting. Yeah.
Devin George, like that first year he started in LA, he was athletic too.
Yeah, he was.
I feel like Anthony Morrow's too good of a shooter, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Anthony Morrow was in Heat camp a couple times, and they didn't end up keeping him, and then they regretted it because they always
could have been.
Wait a second, we got it. We got an answer. Ben Lipson, throw it up on the screen. We finally got it.
Ben
you guys
Lipson.
are gonna go crazy when you.
Y'all are gonna be so mad.
Ben Lipson.
It's because they don't think of the second one as a score. That's why.
He won it. He won it. Well, the second one doesn't look at the rim.
Well, I'm still looking for it.
You can't find it?
Come on, producer. We gave you the name.
This show's been all over the place today. This is what happens when we give shit away.
Wow.
I'm just saying. No, it's not. It's not Alex's fault. I've just totally lost control of this situation.
Oh, you're saying when you okay, never mind.
First of all,
I don't know the answer, but what's the name again? Oh, I see it.
The name is Ben. There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Oh my God.
And just to clarify for everybody, Michael Beasley was 21 years and 45 days. Tyler Herro, 21 years and 318 days. Bam, no ceiling. Adebayo, 22 years and 202 days. Y'all are just sleeping on Bam. See, y'all take Bam for granted.
I don't think they will in about 4 weeks. Greg, I don't think they will in about 4 weeks. But the thing about this is everybody just forgot the Wade age thing. Like he came in after, remember, he was Prop 48. He spent a little bit more time. He came in, he was 21 years old. So Bam came in younger than he did. Everybody here is wow, Bam. See, I figured that was it.
And he was coming off the bench. He was coming off the bench also. I think that messed up people. Somebody said that Max is like Coutinho Mobley, which I found to be an interesting comparison.
Though
I can't.
Coutinho
I
was
can't quite.
really good.
I can't
really
quite wrap
good.
my head around it because one, Coutinho was really good, and two, lefty righty is hard to compare.
And he's small.
I actually
compared
think the
to Max.
Aflalo comparison is better than that
I do
one,
too.
right? But I don't know. You're trying to think of a stocky. There had to have been like a stocky 2-guard, like you know who was
Liddell Eccles.
That was a really stocky 2-guard. He was with the Heat briefly. Vinny Johnson popped into my head, but no, I don't know.
Landry Fields.
Man, what happened to that dude? This one comes in from Darius. We appreciate the super chat donation here. Don't know if you saw previous posts or not, but I said a Caleb comp could be Iman Shumpert. That is interesting.
Huh.
Good defense, high level athlete, could squeeze as a ball handler. Does he also? Is he also a hip hop artist? I'm not sure. Iman Shumpert just won something, didn't he? He won Dancing with the Stars or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So maybe Caleb. That's an interest. I kind of like that.
I like that.
That's an interesting comparison.
The difference I would say is that the Knicks, they drafted Iman Shumpert with the intention of him being their point guard.
I know that was nuts.
and
The Knicks.
that was an experiment for like 4 years. Like he was supposed to be their point guard of the future, and then they finally moved him off the ball.
Eric Gordon is interesting. Dražen Petrovic. No, Herro reminds me more of Dražen Petrovic.
Yes.
Oh,
I keep beating that drum. That's my favorite.
Herro reminds me more of
a good one.
Dražen Petrovic. Than he does. All right, we will close with this, and we'll try to end this on a relatively high note. Okay, we're not going to do Omer tonight. KZ, we need to see more than one game, although that was impressive. But because we only have a minute left, what is the Duncan Robinson comp, Greg?
Oh man, Jason Capono.
Oh boy, they didn't pay Jason Capono $90 million.
No, I know.
That's how Pat looks at Duncan, by the way.
So
He sees Jason Capono when he sees Duncan. Like
January 15th is not that far away.
Oh
paying
boy.
Capono $90 million.
Oh boy, that's
Toronto was supposed to pay him. They paid Jason
didn't play on the
Capono. They paid
championship
Damon
team.
Jones. Who else? They paid another guy. They paid like 3 Heat free agents.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
This is
There
the
you
one,
go.
probably, right?
Bruce is Kyle Korver, Duncan more like Korver. Again, we're just
The
subbing
second
white
part, yeah.
guys.
Hey,
I don't.
Duncan and Korver. It's that one's hard to beat. I'm sorry. Like just
No,
the play style.
that
fair.
was the ideal. That's what they're paying him to
It's
become
just like
for the
making
long
shots
term.
thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's
not
kind
it's
of the
not
key.
Strus. It's
Now they're just trashing him.
Oh boy! All right, that's it. That's
You
it.
want
Thank
him to be
folks.
Danny Green, actually. If he was Danny Green, then that would be a good thing because he could play some defense.
But
Like, really
I would
good
want Danny
defense.
Green from the Spurs, not from the
What do you
Lakers.
guys think of my Bruce Bowen comparison for Caleb Martin?
How about Peja for Max Strus?
I just think of him as such an
you're
elite defensive player that I just don't know that he like would. Can you imagine him in the conversation for defensive player of the year? Because Bruce Bowen had a few of them years, so
Yeah,
that's
no
where
doubt.
it's like. Gets a
But
little weird.
did he have it before he became like
It's
Bruce
lofty.
Bowen, right?
No, that's
Like,
true. That's true.
he
If we're
developed
talking
into
like
that,
Heat
yeah.
tenure, then it does definitely. There's much more of a correlation.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, you cannot compare Duncan Robinson to do people remember what Peja Stojakovic
Oh my
was?
gosh.
They think he's only a 3-point shooter. Like
I
no,
thought
that
when
dude
they
was
got
cold.
Ron
Peja was an
Artest-
all-star.
When Indy got Peja for Ron Artest, I actually thought they did really good in that deal.
Peja
Was it
Peja
Korver
was-
an All-Star?
No.
I mean, he shouldn't have been.
Did
See,
he
really
make it
bad,
that
man.
1 year in 2015 when the Hawks were winning?
Everybody except Amari
Jamal
Carroll.
McGlure was an all-star. Big Cat was an all-star. There are different ways to become an all-star. All
Roy
right.
Hibbert
Thanks,
got two.
Korver
everybody,
could be an
for
All-Star.
joining.
Duncan Robinson could.
Roy Hibbert
We
got
need to
2
think about it.
All-Stars.
Thanks to Brian. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to Alex. Sorry we were all over the place tonight. But we
Bring
hope you
back
guys had
Beasley.
fun. By the way, the winner. DM me at 5 Reasons Sports. Okay, I'll find it. DM me, and we'll make sure that we're going to go pick it up on Monday, and I'll make sure that I get that Herro signed photo out to you. Thanks everybody for joining. We appreciate. And it was 8:31, right? What was the gentleman's name? Lipson. We'll find it. Make sure we get it to the right person. All right. Thanks everybody.
Ben
Thanks
Lipson.
Everything Trade Shows. Prize Picks. Use the code 5. Have a good night.
Every 10 seconds, somebody is born who cannot guard me.